Okay, we're back. And first and foremost, we wanted to welcome you all for taking some time out of your day. We know that this is right in the heart of your business day, but this is an important topic. It's part of our Excel Micro's educational series. There obviously has been a lot of news this week and last week with ransomware, and we're going to be highlighting today what you can do to protect yourself, your customers, from future attacks such as these that are getting more and more sophisticated, which we'll dive into. So welcome again, folks. We are Excel Micro. We are the North American distributor of cloud security and compliance solutions. We're a J2 global company based outside of the Philadelphia area. We do everything here in-house, from our account management to support, development with tooling, marketing, as well as our billing teams. You may be new to us, or you may be with us for some time now, but what sets us apart, we are somewhat unique from other distributors because we are a focused distributor. We want to make sure that you are getting that true value add when you have a team of dedicated representatives all under one roof and product specialists to assist you with whatever you need. So today, we will be talking a little bit about Excel Micro, and then we're going to dive right into the threats. And we will be highlighting the WannaCry, which you have seen. We'll be reviewing some tips and what you can do to really stay ahead of the curve and be proactive. So when you see news articles like this, you can, in the future, send your customers an email confirming that everything is fine, solutions that we have in place as your trusted consultant or service provider are protecting you from these. So my name is Michael Amadio. You may have heard me and my colleague Ernie Martinelli on some of our educational series, along with some of our product demos. So welcome back, folks. I'm not going to steal a lot of Ernie's thunder today, because if you have been on some of his presentations, he is basically our resident mechanic here, knows the ins and outs of the solutions that we offer as well as others that we do not offer, and definitely has a huge footprint in this industry as a knowledgeable source. So we're really looking forward to Ernie and what he's going to present for us. So before we begin, Excel Micro, I mentioned we are a J2 global company. J2 Global is based out of Hollywood, California. And as you can see now, they've been growing in revenue for over 21 years. It's a publicly traded organization. J2, they came and acquired Excel Micro because they saw the value add that we had in the distribution model built here in North America, and they acquired us back in October of 2014. Since being acquired by J2 Global, it's been nothing but a benefit. We have experts throughout all spectrums that we have dotted lines to. There are teams all throughout the globe that are able to assist us and further assist you to provide you, again, with more of that unique and overall experience that you're not going to get from another distributor. Other J2 brands, such as Keep It Safe, Live Vault, and eFax, they also have some data protection functionality that can further combat against sophisticated threats, such as what we're doing as well. It's a great organization to be a part of, and now being with them for almost 3 years, we can really see the value that is provided to you. A few buzzwords or key terms, things that you're going to be hearing in the news, things that you'll hear throughout Ernie's presentation shortly, are ransomware, phishing, and malware. Well, obviously, ransomware is the main highlight. Phishing and malware are the delivery points of that ransomware. And ransomware, as you can see here, it's software that is going to basically hijack your machine or your entire environment until a sum of money, and it's not any small sum of money, is paid to release that from being basically hijacked or kidnapped. That's why it's considered a ransom, to free up that solution. So with these, we're going to discuss some of today's threats, and Ernie's going to highlight, obviously, some of the ransomware outbreaks, and we'll dive into a little bit more of WannaCry to give you some information on that. So Ernie, are you with me?
Absolutely. Thanks for the great introduction, Mike. Absolutely. We're going to be, we're talking quite a bit about the ransomware and the outbreaks and the phishing attempts that have been going on for quite a bit of time. Obviously, with last year's outbreak of CryptoLocker and its many forms, it's becoming a bigger and bigger topic. Obviously, due to the success of these attacks that we're seeing out there, becoming a much larger problem for us. Of course, the WannaCry is obviously the next kind of evolution of that. We're going to dive a little bit more into how successful the attack currently was. And of course, as Mike stated, the WannaCry is what's bringing us here. Of course, it hit on Friday. A lot of machines over the weekend still had it loaded. And then, of course, on Monday, there was 2 new variations that I'm going to speak a little bit more in depth about in just a few moments here that have been detected. So the WannaCry ransomware originally originated with, it was an original bug within the Microsoft architecture, originally starting in Windows XP. The National Security Agency actually determined that this was a bug. However, the NSA, keeping that secret, did not let Microsoft know of that vulnerability. That vulnerability obviously moved forward in subsequent versions of Windows 7, Windows 8, moving forward. Of course, all server versions, of course, had that. Unfortunately, due to a leak from the NSA, that vulnerability was recently released, which is how the WannaCry is able to do what it was able to do. Of course, this particular one was a little more unique than, say, the CryptoLocker variations out there, which a user had to click on a specific link and it locked a specific machine. This malware, actually, it only has to get in at one point. This particular method that this was being delivered by, very, very small on the phishing side. However, most of this was clicking on a certain URL or actually being brought in by certain files. So not a large on the phishing attempt side, but a few attempts have been documented and seen on that. But this one's pretty insidious on the back end. What this one actually does is, once it gets into that one single one on the network, if the machines have not been updated to take advantage of the new patch, this will spread throughout the network and infect all machines. Once that infection is complete on those machines, it's going to bring up the ransomware on the screen and basically demand a payment of $300 up to $600, depending on how long you wait to do it. What it's doing on the back end is actually encrypting your files on the back end to not allow you to have access to them. So the biggest thing that came out of this is, of course, patching those machines, getting the Windows up to date in place. Microsoft actually did release updates for Windows Server 2003 and Windows XP because of the severity of this. Of course, if you see the graph on here, you can see some of the major companies that were attacked, including in the United States, FedEx did have that issue. A lot of people, of course, throughout this investigation said, hey, why would people still have Windows XP, Windows Server machines, and why haven't people updated? Well, to speak on the Windows XP and Server 2003, it's important to note a lot of embedded devices utilize Windows XP, have server built into them. A great example of some handheld devices like FedEx would have that kind of software embedded. It's not exactly easy to update that software to a newer version of Windows. So it becomes a little bit more problematic for some companies, which of course left that vulnerability and is why certain countries got hit harder than others. Of course, US did get hit, but majority of the European theater and of course the Russian area was hit quite hard due to the fact that machines were not updated as often in those particular areas. So, of course, under these large-scale attacks, you can see from the document or the picture that I have here, you can see all the different attacks that came through. And actually, about 200,000 computers were hit with this, in at least 150 countries. So, quite a bit of spread on this virus. Going through here, a couple things here. The attacks can come through multiple different ways. As we mentioned, can come through phishing emails. Now, in this particular scenario for WannaCry, you didn't see as many of the phishing attempts. However, it was based off of files and clicking on URLs. So, of course, we have quite a bit of options here where they came through, such as malicious links. It can also pass through AV filters that are either ineffective or non-effective, and, of course, machines that weren't updated. What could lines of defense would have helped in this situation? So first and foremost, having any effective email security solution in place would help if it was the phishing attempt style. The second option, which can be even more helpful, is that URL defense option. So a lot of good email security solutions now have URL at click time defense options. This will significantly help the spread of it, people clicking and sending you to sites that do have this malware associated with it. And of course, one of your last lines of defenses that you can have installed on a machine is effective AV solution. Handles great 0-day outbreaks, and of course their subsequent variations. Then, of course, the best possible solution that would have prevented the spread of this one so heavily was updating your OS with the latest security patches. We've all done it. We see those updates coming through. Oh, I'll do them later. Well, in these cases, this could have helped a lot. Now, it's not just the individual end user machines. Obviously, IT departments out there really need to upgrade their back-end servers, put these patches through. Not always the easiest thing to do. In some large-scale infrastructures and larger companies, obviously that becomes a much larger project. But I think what we're seeing with these attempts is that we really do need to focus on having a great security stance as well as a great upgrade stance.
So, Ernie, with a lot of that you're showing with the different lines of defense and showing different ways to layer things, it was a great segue here. I see being proactive. What is the best method, or what should people be looking into doing on their end?
So the best recommendation is, obviously, most of us on this call have a great email security solution in place. But what I see as a big benefit, and because this is going to become a much larger problem in the future, I think we really need to look into adding more in the URL defense area and really examining what we're doing on the AV side of the spectrum. This is going to help the second and third line defenses. Something obviously gets through as a phishing attempt, then the URL defense will catch it. If, heaven forbid, something sneaks past the URL defense and the email security, well, AV on the end can capture it as well, because once it hits the machine, it can detect that intrusion and knock it out as well. So it's very important to note that, single lines of defense nowadays aren't necessarily, the be all and end all. That second and third level can help you as well and catch those options.
So you say URL defense. Now, is that protection against phishing attempts? Can you explain really what URL defense is and maybe give an example of a phishing attempt?
Absolutely. So first of all, what URL defense is, you're going to find that a lot of times in an email, you're going to get embedded URLs in there. Normal email security will check that on the way by and only on the way by. What a good URL defense does is on the way in with that URL, it's going to examine that URL. It's going to see if it's going to a malicious site or a piece of malware. If it is indeed not, it will allow that to pass through. But what URL defense does is an extra level. It marks that URL, rewrites it in the back end, delivers it to the recipient. A favorite of hackers out there is they'll send a good URL out, 4, 5, 6 days later, they'll what's called weaponize that link. It's now going to a malicious link. What ends up happening is click happy end user comes along 4 or 5 days later. You don't have URL defense in place. They click on that URL. You're infected with that malware. It's made it through the initial attempt. What URL defense is doing is at the click time event, it's actually going to go back through the email security filter, verify that it's good at the time of click, and either make a determination that, hey, this is now going to malware, we're going to block this attempt, or if it's still going to an OK link, allow it to go through. So that can help a lot of occasions. So what you'll see with phishing attempts out there is it'll be a very, very convincing email you'll get. Maybe very, very close to what you notice as good email, probably pass through the filter on a lot of occasions. These people are getting extremely crafty. It'll only have maybe one letter difference or number difference in the email address. The subject line will see legitimate, and of course it'll have those URL links in there, or it'll ask you to go to download a certain file in a certain place. So of course the phishing attempts are getting more complicated with the URL defense. That helps knock that out and not make that so much of a probability of somebody clicking on that into the future.
People have been receiving emails from a reputable email address, from someone in their network, from someone within their own organization. And within the body of those emails, there will be a link that will be weaponized, as Ernie said. But however, you need to be mindful of that again, and then you need to examine an email for a certain typo. If an O is replaced with a 0, if an I is replaced with an L, then you know that it is not a reputable source, and that's why having further defense, what Ernie just described, is going to protect you against attacks such as that.
And I think that, us being proactive is really important. And just to kind of elaborate more on these two additional variations of the WannaCry that came out, is that the second version that came out had modified the code slightly to try to change the domain that it was accessing. The original one was shut down by simply registering the domain. The second version had a different domain. Of course, the kill switch worked the second time, but the third version, the B version, in the code showed that vulnerability removed to it. So the kill switch was effectively taken out. Mercifully, with that B version, whoever wrote it did not successfully add the component which spreads it throughout the network. But you can see that they're evolving this type of attack. And what most experts are saying, because this attack was so good at getting this so many machines, that we're probably going to see a lot more of this coming up in the future. They're going to take this code, they're going to revise it, they're going to make it better. From a lot of the stuff that's been coming out, frankly, this was a very amateurish attempt. However, it was extremely effective. So you can imagine when this code gets out there to the hacking community, they're going to be able to do significantly more with it. And that's obviously why we want to tighten up our defenses and talk about multiple layers of protection.
Great. Well, thanks, Ernie. So obviously our team is here. And we want to be your trusted source and guide you, obviously, to the correct path to protect yourself and protect your customers. The goal of our account managers is to work with you and constantly grow with you, provide you with whatever materials that you need to further educate you, so then you can further educate your customers on the importance of adding security. Security is at the forefront these days. You hear about it multiple times a day within the news. And with what Ernie said, being able to layer different security solutions on will give you that further added protection. You want it's almost as like insurance to make sure that you're protected from all spectrums. You're protected from all angles, from future attacks that are extremely sophisticated. Similar to what Ernie said, once the code of what this recent attack gets out, who knows who could adapt that into something a little bit more and even more harmful than this one was. So contact our team. They're here to help. They're here to provide you with guidance. They'll be able to give you a full assessment on your account. They'll see what you currently are using, if you have the full protection in place, if you are prepared to protect your customers from future ransomware attacks, and even give you the talking points as well, so you can have these conversations with your customers to let them know that yes, you are here to protect them from this happening to their company and any sort of data breach or ransom. So thanks, folks. We wanted to keep this a part of our educational series extremely brief. If you ever needed more information on any of our solutions, any of our products, what the next steps are, how you can be proactive, what solutions you can bundle together, contact our team anytime. We are here to fully assist you and steer you in the right direction. They always say if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Or our team is here to help be your guide in the right direction. So thank you, Ernie. Thank you very much as well. We look forward to working with everyone very soon and look for a recording and follow-up from our team within the next day. So thanks, folks.